The NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to get started today. We're also brought to you by Birddogs Shorts. The world's greatest shorts are hooking you up with a free Yeti-style tumbler when you order over at birddogs.com/pool. That's birddogs.com/pool.
I'm just about that action, boss.
You have to be kidding me. That is impossible.
I'm raising the ante. Anybody wants any deal?
He is Houdini.
Jordan Davis, dog. Jalen Hurts, dog. AJ Brown, dog. How many people want to eat a W tonight?
Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Justin Mark. I'm Rod Gomez. And today we are going to talk to you about the running back position, one of my favorites in the entire field. I love watching running backs run. Sometimes I feel like they're underrated, and especially in fantasy football, these guys are largely ignored due to the growing rise of the zero RB movement in fantasy football, which I say free the running back, but I guess that's just me, Justin.
Yeah, and we're seeing kind of a shift. They're becoming more undervalued in general in the NFL. You're seeing more by committee approaches, and these guys that are literally kind of putting the team on their back or on their legs are getting paid less and less. They're not getting their big contracts because NFL teams go, and we can plug somebody else back in there. They don't seem to pull the weight they used to anyways.
And I wonder because, and we've seen historically that running teams normally do well when your team is more balanced. And maybe it is the direction that this league has been heading in for a very long time as far as wanting to just throw the ball. I mean, that's really everybody just wants to throw the ball. That's all you want to do. Screen passes, hooks, little short slants, like that is what this West Coast offense has sort of taken over. And of course, this was back in the 90s when it first really, or 80s, that it really started to come into play. But now we've seen the progression of it to where that running back position, like you said, can be handled by two, sometimes three people. And it's not just a lead back that gets the majority of the carries. You can take him off for a couple of downs, here and there, so he doesn't necessarily get run into the ground. But yeah, it's just weird to see, and it's sad to see because, again, a good running game really does set up a better passing game, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And you can, start doing the play action. The teams are going to have to start loading the box because they have to account for that run. So your burners on the outside can get open. Absolutely agree with you there.
And I say this, but if you look at last season's rushing totals and rushing leaders, you got to go all the way down to Tony Pollard. All of those guys were 1,000-yard rushers. So we talk about the demise of the running back as a position, and yet there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 1,000-yard rushers. Last time I counted, there's 32 teams, which means half of the teams had at least one 1,000-yard rusher on their roster.
Yeah, and for my Bears, it was their quarterback. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I was just looking at that too, and I noticed that Justin Fields had more rushing yards than Christian McCaffrey.
Well, I mean,
Just a little rivalry there for us.
I was gonna say half of the season you can't really count that because he was with the Panthers.
True.
But, once he got on the Niners, he started lighting it up. That's where he got the majority of that 1,000 yards, actually. But I will say that he had more rushing yards than Aaron Jones. That's something. Or let's see, Ramondre Stevenson. But yeah, that doesn't really count. But yeah, it's it's crazy to me. And yet, you look at the leading rushers on these things, the Raiders, the Titans, the Browns. Obviously, the Browns needed to run the ball a lot, but Miles Sanders with the Eagles, Vikings, Niners, all of these are playoff contending teams. You look at the ones without, right? Cowboys. Well, the Chiefs, I guess you can't make a case for the Chiefs running game, can you?
No. When you got Patrick Mahomes, you don't need to run the ball, I guess.
Apparently not. And Travis Kelce.
Yep.
But yeah, so this week we will be breaking down the running back position. We'll give you our power rankings. And then, of course, we will give you useful knowledge on how to turn this into a betting card at the end of it. But initially, we got a couple of news things going on. Justin, you told me and you informed me of a situation with Saquon Barkley. What's that?
Yeah, so he's playing on the franchise tag. He's not at mandatory camp. And said that he is considering a holdout if a long-term deal can't get done. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on because he is obviously a very big piece of that offense, a very talented rusher. And without him, I don't know if they turn to rookie Eric Gray that they drafted. I'm not sure what they do if Barkley decides he's not going to play this year.
And how likely is that? That I guess that's my question. He obviously is a major cog in that offense. A lot of people are hopeful about this New York Giants team going into this season, and maybe rightfully so. I don't know. I know Kramer's really excited about it, but how likely do you think it is that he sits out this season? And did the Giants play into this and actually try to pay the guy?
Yeah, I doubt he ends up sitting, whether they do get a long-term deal done or maybe the Giants say, all right, we're not going to deal with this and find a trade partner. I'm sure somebody out there wants to pay Barkley. I was hoping he hit the free agency so the Bears could get him. So there's that. If they want to trade for him and give him a long-term deal, I'm fine with it. I get the injury history, but the last running back that sat out was Le'Veon Bell, and it did not work out very well for him. He sat out that year, and I just feel like he never recovered to the running back he was and never got that long-term deal and the money he was looking for.
Yeah, and for Le'Veon, I mean, again, his performance dictated that he probably deserved every bit of that. I mean, the Steelers really leaned on him through a lot of those years that he was their lead back. And I mean, you're only asking for what you're worth, I suppose. And unfortunately, they didn't give it to him. And yeah, you're right. I mean, we haven't seen him since. And he probably could still run the ball. That's the thing about it. I think he could still be a valuable running back in this league.
No doubt.
So, all right. And speaking of valuable, a little more money in your bankroll is valuable. Am I right? This is why we have Edge Boost on board with us. Edge Boost supports this episode and this show in general. Edge Boost is the first ever Bet Now, Pay Later Visa card. It's offering right now, Edge is offering up to $2,500 in betting advantages, which can be an extremely valuable tool. How? Well, we're about to give you a bunch of futures bets here in a second, and we're about to tell you what we think these rushing totals are going to be over, under, around, through, and all that other good stuff. And if you want to get in on this and you want to double down on this and you want to actually use some of that advance to sort of not tie up all of your money in these future bets, Edge Boost is the perfect way for you to do it. Well, you don't have to tie them up for months at all. Double down on your favorite bet that you like, or even use it to create an awesome middle or even hedge. Edge Boost isn't some sleazy loan shark. No, sir. They charge 0% interest. That means that you don't have to pay any interest. I know that 0%. Trying to break it down for me, not you. I have to understand this. And I don't know that any other way that you can access more money to place on your favorite bets without actually paying any interest. But now you do. It's called Edge Boost. Edge Boost can also be a part of a responsible gambling plan. You set up daily, weekly, monthly limits across all your betting accounts in just one place. You're asking me how to get on this. Well, help support the SGPN and grow your bankroll by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to sign up. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge. Must be 21 years or older to use. Problem gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. So as we start to dig into this running back position, as I looked at the leaders of this, right, and we're obviously going to give our power rankings here in a second. I don't know how many people would actually put and maybe even not even get this as a trivia question. Who led the league in yardage last season? Right. I know we're looking right at it, but I'm asking you out there, can you name the leading rusher last season? I'm gonna tell you right now, you're probably wrong. Because it was Josh Jacobs who led the league in rushing with 1,653 yards on the ground. Does anybody put him even in the top 5 of their power rankings, Justin?
Um, it's really close. I actually wrestled with him right at the 5-6 spot. The thing is, obviously, he led the league in rushing last year after having a down year before that, and he played into the passing game, which I feel like last year was the first year we saw him consistently catch passes, but I want to see consistent good numbers from him. He had a stretch from weeks, let's see, 4, 5, and 7, where he had 144 yards, 154, 143. Around that, he was only in the 50 to 60 average. And then weeks 11, 12, 13, 109, 229, 144. So obviously those big games skew it. And it's great to have those big games, but I want to see him kind of average that 80, 90 per game before I can throw him, closer towards the top there.
And this season he's with Jimmy Garoppolo, which we saw a slew of Niners running backs be successful behind. And it didn't matter. It was Mostert or if it was, McCaffrey there toward the end. Like, who was the quarterback? It didn't kind of matter. The running back was good with Jimmy Garoppolo in there. And so I wonder, and maybe, obviously you can argue that Kyle Shanahan, obviously a much different offense than the Raiders, but without Darren Waller now, right? Devontae Adams is still there, which is going to be interesting to see that dynamic, but I feel like they still have to lean on this running game to get them over the hump. And we know Jimmy Garoppolo is a running back friendly quarterback. So I know it's hard to say that Josh Jacobs is a top 5 because it's not a sexy name in that position, but yet the numbers kind of speak for themselves.
Yeah, agreed. This list was, I guess, very difficult for me because I had to really try to separate myself from I'm not looking at the best fantasy football running back, right? Because there is a difference between your best running backs and your best fantasy football running back. So it was especially difficult for me trying to distinguish between those two.
And that's something that I think everybody that listens to this show knows is that, both of us have done fantasy. You still do a fantasy football podcast. So when you separate is they good? Is they good?
Is they?
Do I talk for a living? Are they good on the field versus do they put up good fantasy numbers? It's always a balancing act of what you're actually looking for out of a running back, because Josh Jacobs, fantastic for on the field, but for fantasy, not always the running back that you want, not always the one that's going to win you a week.
Yeah, agreed. And is they good? There we go, abusing the English language. So here comes a bad review.
Hey, listen, I scream at everybody. So and look, in full disclosure, I said it too in the Slack chat or Discord chat, actually Slack channel, that I've been told by many a sound operator that I break microphones and I break their equipment. They immediately have to turn the pot down as soon as I start to open my mouth. But I'm not going to apologize. I'm not dialing back on the energy. And if you don't want to listen to it, that's fine. There's other shows that are much more subdued than this.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Your process as we rank to these guys, as we start going through our list here after we go to our second break in a little bit. But what did you look at for these guys to sort of make your list?
Yeah, so like I said, it was really difficult making that distinction, but I kind of started going on. Obviously, you have to go by talent, but also how much the team needs them. Like if they could pull that guy out and plug somebody else in, and they could have similar numbers, are they really a great running back, or are they just in a good system? So I started my breakdown that way, and then just the talent and what they do for the team, I guess, and how they run. And again, it's something completely different because you got some older guys in there that it's like, well, and I say old, they're not old, but a guy like Derrick Henry, who's been around a while, but still, it just every year it has good season after good season. and how can you not consider him towards the top? I mean, when I was looking at it, it was like, I don't want to give it away here, but it's like, how do I not consider him the best in the league right now?
Yeah, and really, when you look at the whole thing, and that's too another thing when you're ranking these guys, it's power rankings, right? It's not looking at the numbers and saying who was the best from top to bottom. Power rankings has a whole slew of things that you add into it, which is exactly why you broke it down the way you did. And for me, it's the same thing. It's like how valuable are they to the team? How well do I think they're going to perform? Where are they playing? Like who are they playing against, right? And who do I think season long they're going to have more of an advantage and be toward the top of that list when it gets to the end? And again, it doesn't even mean that the number one running back is going to finish with the most yardage or the most touchdowns or anything. And really, it could just mean that is the most valuable player on their team and it is the more valuable running back going forward. And in my opinion, that's what power ranking tends to mean, not necessarily, what the numbers say.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why it's such a volatile gauge for people to kind of talk about and say, no, how can you not have him? We're in it for the clicks, folks. We're in it for you guys to tell us how we're wrong. Which, by the way, I don't know you can even do on Reddit anymore, right? What's up with Reddit? Is Reddit going to a subscription model?
Yeah, I don't know. I just started seeing that more often. Like you go to a community, it's like, well, this is now a private community. If you weren't part of it, you can't do any commenting. What? When did this happen? I'm obviously not on there enough where this just I got on one day and it's like, wait a minute, when did this happen?
I think they're mad that people are trying to share all of their content on Reddit. They want to keep it a safe space. The power rankings are blowing up Reddit. So sorry, guys, our bad. We'll take our talk elsewhere. So, all right. Well, we will continue to do all that, but I'm excited, Justin, because it is shorts weather in California. And I'm telling you right now, I'm already in shorts. You can't see it because I'm not panning the camera down, but I've been in shorts for a very long time in California. I think this is the last day of the 80s and we're jumping back up to the 90s. But I'm more excited because I'm about to buy myself some Birddogs shorts because Birddogs shorts are way better than anything I've ever had and will ever have in my life. They're khaki shorts. They're designed to fit slimmer, make me look a little more summer ready in the thighs and the legs, make me look like Saquon Barkley's gigantic thighs, right? Is that the thing? I think he's got gigantic thighs. I don't know. But if you want to look like that, you got to get yourself some Birddogs shorts. They do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better, and they fit better than regular shorts because they're made of stiff. The ones that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. You don't want any of that. No. You want Birddogs because they fixed all that issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but it stretches to get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice on movement. Plus, anti-stink, anti-sweat wicking fabric's going to keep you cool and dry all day long. Let me tell you, you need that, especially in the balls hot of summer. You don't want your balls to sweat. Don't get that. You got Birddogs right now. How to get there? Go to birddogs.com/pool. Enter promo code POOL to get a free Yeti style tumbler with your order of awesome Birddogs shorts. That's birddogs.com/pool for a free Yeti style tumbler. I'm telling you right now, you won't want to take your Birddogs off. We certainly promise you.
And you don't have to because they're anti-stink. So
Exactly.
Just leave them on.
All damn day long, all week long. Just don't worry about it. They'll cover it up. Nick's talking about Justin looking like a hunting. What are you hunting for?
Birddogs.
You love that. All right. So let's start talking through this. Let's start ranking some running backs and talking through who we think is going to be at the top of this list at the end of 2023, I suppose. What did we do last time? Did we go 10-1 or go 1-10?
I think we went 1-10 for the quarterbacks.
I think you're right. Let's do that too. Yep. So let's start off with number one. Who's your number one?
I kind of stated it before. Derrick Henry. The guy's just a beast. I know he had an injury 2 years ago, and then last year it seems like some Titans fans were a little disappointed. Well, he had 1,500 yards, 1,538, 13 touchdowns. I mean, the guy's a monster, and I think he's shown, like, every year you say, well, he can't carry that many times again. He can't carry that many times again, and he does, and he has success. And the defense has to know Derrick Henry's getting the ball. Like they're not afraid of Ryan Tannehill. So I had to put him as number one. I just think he's one of the most dominant running backs out there and is not showing, knock on wood, any signs of slowing down yet.
Yeah, and I've got him as number one as well. I've seen far too many videos on YouTube of him just making people look absolutely silly. And really, there's no other comparison or there's no other running back, I think, that compares to him as far as just the domination year after year. First of all, I mean, this guy's been at it for a while, and I don't know if there's been a running back in a while that has seen as much domination as he has year in and year out. Injuries, bad teams, it doesn't matter. Just Derrick Henry has been an absolute monster the entire time. And until further notice, he's got to stay up there. And you're right, missed some time, but still finished as the second leading rusher in the league behind Josh Jacobs. So, and this season, they're going to need it even more. I mean, obviously, it's a flux season for Tennessee. They're still trying to figure out what to do at quarterback. I don't know. We'll see when that gets closer to time. But, you know, it just feels like this team is on the precipice of either completely changing its entire philosophy or just building and doubling down on what they're doing. And Derrick Henry's going to play a large part in that because he's still the anchor of that team.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't know if it matters who is there at quarterback. I mean, we saw last year Malik Willis came in and Derrick Henry still had good games and Malik Willis didn't throw for over 100 yards. So he's definitely kind of the backbone of this team.
You kind of want Malik Willis at this point, don't you?
Right.
That means more carries for Henry.
For sure.
Bo Jackson in Tecmo Super Bowl was pretty good too. Nick is saying, yeah, I definitely think that Bo Jackson and Derrick Henry have something in common. However, I would like to see Derrick Henry in Tecmo Super Bowl to see what they would give him.
There you go.
All right. Both of us agree at number one. And honestly, I don't know that there's probably a lot of people that are like, Derrick Henry is washed, and that's fine. That's fine. He could very well be. This could well be the year that he starts the downward slope, but I don't want to bet against it at this point.
I say that every year. I say this is probably going to be the year. He had too many carries. This year's going to be it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm not betting against it until it does.
Nope. 13 touchdowns for Derrick Henry, led the league. It's just like, come on, man. How much more disrespect are you going to give the guy? So
right.
That was not a controversial pick at one at all. So who is your second running back?
This is where it already started getting tricky for me, but I did go with Nick Chubb just because of his running style. Like you said, the Browns really needed him last year, and he stepped up, finished third in rushing yards with 1,525, but he's not. So Derrick Henry is he's an all-power guy, right? Nick Chubb's got that power, but he can do some finesse in there too. And he's a younger guy that I think is going to continue to do well. Last year, we finally saw how he would do without having a split with Kareem Hunt, right? He basically carried the full workload. And I think we're going to see that going forward as well. And I struggled with him. I had him at 2. I had him at 5. Then I put him back up at 2. So these next guys are all very close for me. But yeah, I threw Nick Chubb in there. How about you?
Well, so for number 2 for me, are you ready for this? Surprise, surprise. Mm-hmm. I got Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
The resurrection of Christian McCaffrey, and I hear the groans from everybody out there. Rod's a homer. Yeah, I am. But I mean, we talked about the fact, is he valuable to his team, right? Do you think he's going to put up the yardage that he needs to put up to carry the team to victory? And honestly, Christian McCaffrey really excelled once he got to San Francisco. Eye test saw that. Everybody saw that. That was exactly what he needed. He needed that breath of fresh air to move away from Carolina, get into San Francisco, get into that Shanahan system, be used, right? Now there's no Garoppolo. Now it's all either Purdy or, heaven forbid, Sam Darnold or Trey Lance, which, you know, I have a lot of opinions about Trey Lance right now. And I just don't want to get into that because this isn't quarterback. But no matter who that running back or no matter who that quarterback is, it's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we forget that, and this is where it's hard to separate fantasy from the reality of it, right? Fantasy darling Christian McCaffrey was a couple of seasons ago. He was the 101 in everybody's draft, but he backed it up on the field too. And that was something, he was still a power running back on the field, which is why he was the 101 in everybody's draft. I think he can return to that form in his first full season with San Francisco, given a whole offseason to prepare with this offense. You saw what he did last year with just walking in the door. So I'm telling you right now, he develops any sort of relationship with the quarterbacks, more relationship with that coaching staff. You watch out for Christian McCaffrey. I feel like this is going to be, we're going to watch the Christian McCaffrey of old this season versus what we saw the last couple in Carolina.
Yeah, and I'll jump right to 3 because he's my third guy. I agree with you there. I think the only thing you can hold against Christian McCaffrey is, oh, he's had some injury history, right? But when you're making these, you don't base it on, well, this guy might get injured. Anybody could get injured at any time. I mean, it's a physical sport. Any of these players could get injured. So when you're looking at talent based, I remember watching him play against the Iowa Hawkeyes when he was at Stanford. And he had like 229 all-purpose yards or something. It's just like, geez, this kid is good. He's going to be an NFL star, and he has been. And he will hurt you in the running game. He'll hurt you in the receiving game. I mean, he's just a very versatile running back that can do it all. He's a true do-it-all back. And injury history aside, I agree. He's one of the best in the game right now. And I'm excited to see what he does in a full year in the Kyle Shanahan offense, because you kind of alluded to the fact that doesn't matter who's back there, Mostert, Wilson. I mean, all those guys, they've all had success because this offense runs so well. And fingers crossed it is Brock Purdy. Though, picture this for just a minute. I know you wanted the Niners to draft Fields more than Trey Lance. Think if it was a Fields and Christian McCaffrey back there, man, that'd be hard to defend.
Yeah. And to honestly, that I think Fields would have been much better off going to San Francisco in his career anyways, because I just feel
100%.
like, oh yeah, what could have been. And then we could have dealt Jimmy and been okay with it. But yeah. And you said it perfectly too with McCaffrey, that receiving game, you should not overlook his receiving. 52 receptions, 464 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air last year. And then, you give him the ball in space, you give him the ball on a screen, and he's gone. And he can run routes. So fantastic running back all the way around. Like I said, I think this is a hell of a year for CMC, and I'm here for it, especially with the Niners hopefully keeping a lot of what they got intact heading forward. All right. So my number 3 is Nick Chubb. And I debated on Nick Chubb or Josh Jacobs on this one. So I guess I can just give you 3 and 4 where it's Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs. But for Nick Chubb, pretty much all the reasons that you alluded to before. He's just too valuable of a running back on his team, and he always will get the ball. They will always defer to him. I know Kareem Hunt was always a thorn in the side as well, but it was always Chubb kind of coming out on top of it. 1,525 rushing yards last year, 12 touchdowns, right? Not a big threat in the receiving game for Chubb, but again, you didn't need it when you had him on the ground. And as far as running backs go and as far as carries go, you knew he was going to get that 302 attempts last season. Top of the list here, the third of the list for running backs as far as usage is concerned. So, I mean, you want to talk about putting somebody on their back, it's definitely Nick Chubb, and he does that year after year. He's going to need to do it again this year. The Browns are still not good. As much as they want to be, they're still not good, and I think they still need to reassert themselves on the ground if they want to get that way.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely agree. So we're at 4 now, right? I'm at 4. Okay. Yep. So this is where probably it gets a little controversial. People are going to ask, what I'm smoking or whatever, but I got Austin Eckler. Now, hear me out. I know he didn't break 1,000 rushing yards last year. I get it. However, he did have 28.2% usage as a receiver, 177 catches in 2021 and 2022 combined. This is another guy that he is a true dual threat. He can do it as a running back. He can do it as a receiver. And a lot like Christian McCaffrey in open space, he is electric. I mean, he can break any play open. And the Chargers have all sorts of weapons, yet they still rely on him a lot. So I really like Austin Eckler. I'm a big fan of his, and I think he's one of those top guys that probably doesn't get the credit that he should. And yes, he is older. However, he didn't have a lot of usage early on in his career, so he still has fresh legs.
And let's not forget, too, that as far as running backs are concerned, the usage is the usage, right? Running backs are obviously running backs, but the whole position has changed. And better stop having a whiskey for lunch, Nick. But the name of the position, the position has changed, right? So when you talk about running back, you do have to take into account the ones that are pass catchers, like CMC, like Austin Eckler, right? Those guys that are used in both the running and passing game. So it's definitely, when they say, oh, that's a pass catching running back. Yeah, but he's still a running back. Like let's not take away from the main title of his position. He's still a running back. Does he get used more in the passing game? Sure, but that's the name of the position. That's the way the position's going now.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay, my number 4 is, like I said, Josh Jacobs, the league's leading rusher last season, and we kind of talked about him before we started the power rankings. As far as now with Jimmy Garoppolo, now without Darren Waller, one of those passing threats that were there in the past. Does Jimmy Garoppolo hand the ball off more? When you got a back like Josh Jacobs, you kind of should hand the ball off a little more. He definitely warrants it. And let's not necessarily neglect his passing usage too. 53 catches, 400 yards last season. No touchdowns. So, I mean, obviously can't really get him in the end zone there. But that's fantasy. That's not real world. Real world, he caught 53 passes for 400 yards. Jimmy Garoppolo can throw screens to his running back. Did it in San Francisco a ton. So I'm wondering if a few of those Darren Waller targets will end up going Josh Jacobs' way. And maybe that takes away from his total rushing yards. But, again, give him a little more receiving yards, and he's still a running back that does both. So, like I said, it was hard to put Chubb and Jacobs. They're kind of like 3A, 4A, something like that. It's really close in my opinion.
Yeah, no, agree. I got Jacobs at 5, so I'll go right into my 5th here. It's his second straight season, looking at my notes here, of 0.21 missed tackles forced per carry. I know 0.21 doesn't sound like a lot, but we're talking per carry. And he also has more than 3 yards average or after contact. So after contact, he's still picking up an average of 3 more yards. It's one of those reasons he led the league in rushing, because he is a beast. He's a physical guy, but like you said, he can catch the ball as well. He started showing that a lot last year, that, hey, I can be used in this passing game too, like these other dual threat running backs. So it'll be interesting to see how he does fit and mesh with Jimmy G back there now. And I do think it's going to benefit Jacobs, even though he obviously had a hell of a year last year.
I know the question is in the chat. Is Jimmy G going to play a game this year? Yeah, he will. There's too much time between now and the beginning of the season to get that all hammered out. I don't know. I can't see a way that Jimmy doesn't play. They made such a big splash for him. It'd be most unfortunate for that entire franchise if they don't suit Jimmy up this year. I know that there will be many a person on the strip of the female variety that would hate to see that happen. Ladies love them some Jimmy G over there in Vegas, and I'm pretty sure he loves it as well. So, but again, I almost don't care who the quarterback is. Josh Jacobs is still going to be good. Derek Carr was there, and you could probably put them on the same panel with Jimmy G, and kind of, they still did well. So I'm okay with it. Sure. All right. I don't know. And we talked about this too with Saquon Barkley. Like, Saquon Barkley is my next one. And if he plays, he's still going to be good. Like, Saquon still got that talent. And he was injured, but came back and still put up 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns on the year for the Giants. And the Giants need something. They were talked about being one of the better teams coming into it with the NFC East. There's a lot of enthusiasm around this team. Maybe not from me. I don't have that enthusiasm, but there is a lot of enthusiasm. So Saquon Barkley is going to need to perform again. Daniel Jones, for as much as we talked about him in the last one for quarterback rankings, he still needs a strong running back, because I don't think he's the transcendent quarterback that can get it done by himself. He definitely needs a strong running back to do that. And Saquon, he's that guy. He's still that guy. He just needs to not be hurt. Is really all there is to it.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. While we're on Barkley, I got him at number 7. And yeah, he's still a guy that when he gets the ball, he can break anything open. It's the health factor, and then I guess if he's going to hold out or not. But if he's on the field, he's one of the top backs in the game.
Yeah, and I think until we see otherwise, until we see a couple of seasons of decline, then we can start talking about dropping him lower on that list. So, all right, you gave out 7. Did you give out 6?
I did not. 6, I got a guy that I feel like a lot of people just kind of forgot about last year, Jonathan Taylor. He missed some games. They had just a horrible offense in general, but he's a very talented running back when he's healthy. You got to remember, last year he had his down year. The year before that, just 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns rushing. So that's it, And his rookie year, he had 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. So back-to-back double-digit touchdowns, then just had his down year. I still think he's a very good running back. He's a very young guy. This is only his 4th season. So I'm not going to hold last year against him. I think they are going to take a step forward, especially with that's kind of a revamped offense now. They got a new quarterback, new receivers. The line is still good. So I think Jonathan Taylor comes back this year and looks like the guy from 2 years ago or from his rookie season, and not like the one last year that was hurt and only played 11 games. And that whole offense just struggled to move anything. So yeah, I got Jonathan Taylor at 6.
That's funny. I got him at 6 as well, and mainly because he's got himself a brand new rookie quarterback. I can't see a scenario in which Gardner Minshew grabs that top spot in camp from the high draft pick that was Anthony Richardson, and I think this helps him. I mean, obviously, with this young quarterback, this mobile quarterback, this guy that is poised enough, I think, to make a start. If he does, if Gardner Minshew wins this, or if Sam Ehlinger gets the start, okay. But then they even need him more, I think, in my opinion. And Jonathan Taylor, yeah, I think he's going to be very, very clutch for that Colts team, especially with that new rookie quarterback and them being able to play off. Because Taylor's not that old. Taylor's still pretty young himself. So you get a young, energetic quarterback in there. It's probably going to jazz him up a little bit more and put him back into it. Because think about what they had last season, right? I mean, it was kind of like just a rough go for that whole team. So hopefully this new quarterback injects some life into Jonathan Taylor. And I think 6 is a good spot. I mean, it could even be 5. It could be 4, really, if all things go well in camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had him and Josh Jacobs I was right back and forth there in that 5th, 6th spot. But I ended up having to go with Jacobs at that 5th, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I get it completely. All right. Well, for me, because you gave 7 already, so I'll give 7. And Dalvin Cook is out, but I can't really imagine him going to a team that's not going to be somebody that needs him, right? And so we haven't really talked about landing spots for Dalvin Cook. We haven't discussed it yet. I don't know that I don't know. To me, the scenarios of him going to a better team make it to where I got to put him at 7, because wherever he winds up, he's still one of the top 10 quarterback or running backs rather in the league, right? I mean, Dalvin Cook last year with Minnesota was at 1,173 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 264 attempts. They used him a lot. Obviously got hurt, but still a good running back through and through. And I don't see a team not being able to benefit from his presence on there and really just kind of move forward with him. And have you thought about where you think Dalvin Cook would go?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of noise about the Dolphins, which I could see. I think it'd be great if he went to the Bills. They need a strong running back. I feel like they've lacked that. I know Devin Singletary got the job done, but he's not Dalvin Cook. And then he's playing with his brother, Dalvin Cook and James Cook, both there in the running back room. I just think that would be kind of fun. But I'd love to see him on a Bills offense where they don't have to rely on him, but he can just be set up for success.
That would be deadly. If Dalvin Cook ends up on the Bills, he's shooting into my top 4. That's not even a question, because that guy, he could definitely get it done. And with the threat of him running and having to pass the ball to Stephon Diggs, or wait, can we still get Stephon Diggs? Is that what? That receiving core? Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of trouble to be made there. So Dalvin Cook 7, like I said, don't care what team he ends up on. He's still one of the top best running backs on the board.
Yep, and not far behind. I got him at 8. I thought I was looking up some stats here and thought that was really interesting. In 2022, he tied his career low in yards per carry at 4.5. When that's your low, that's pretty damn good. So you kind of laid it out on what I mean. He's still one of the best. I think the Vikings are crazy for letting him go. I don't think Alexander Madison is going to replace Dalvin Cook at all as far as numbers and talent goes. So I mean, how can you not consider him in the top 10? So yeah, I got him at 8.
Well, I'm telling you right now, because Mattson is a Boise State alumni, I'm not rooting for him anyway, so I don't hate Boise State. All right. Well,
my team in college. How dare you?
Listen, I'm Fresno State. We have a very heated rivalry. So I can't do it. All right. I am going to put at number 8, Travis Etienne. Jaguars, we've hyped them up this season, so hopefully they live up to the hype, because if they don't, we're going to be some very, very, scrutinized analysts as far as what we think. But for Travis Etienne, right, 1,125 yards last season, just one of the reasons that the Jaguars started to become what they were, right? They had that rock solid running game with Trevor Lawrence taking that next step up. That step's going to continue, right? And there's a lot of hype around Jacksonville. A lot of it is us, but there's a lot of hype, and there's a lot of people thinking that Jacksonville will even take another step up and be a contender for a little bit, not necessarily up to the level of the Bills or the Chiefs or anybody like that, but maybe get in the upper end of that B tier of the AFC. And if they continue to run the ball the way they've been running it, I think there's a good case for it. And I think Etienne has a better season this year, I think.
Yeah, I like it. He did not make my top 10, but I mean, I can't fault you for that. I think he's a talented guy, obviously missed his rookie year. And, people, I think, kind of undersell the value of the fact that he played in college with Trevor Lawrence. I know they say, well, it's running back. What's it matter? But you learn all your quarterback's cues that way, whether that's in the running game or blocking for him. So I think that keeps him on the field more as well. Moving along in mine at number 9, I got Aaron Jones. It pained me to put a Packer player in there, but I feel like I had to with Jones. Averaged more than 3 yards after contact in every season of his career. And he had 36 explosive plays last year. It's going to be really interesting to me to see what he does in life after Aaron Rodgers, right? Because you can wrestle. Was that running game good because defenses had to account for Aaron Rodgers, or is Aaron Jones just really good? And he splits time with A.J. Dillon, but I still think Jones is the guy. So, yeah, I got him at number 9.
Well, the yards after contact alone lets you know that it was more him. There was a lot of him in it, because once you hit that line, if you go down, then it's not you.
Yeah, right.
Usage, if you can bust through that line and keep going for more yards after contact, then that's you. And in fact, it's funny because that's where Aaron Jones is at for me. It looks like we agree on that one as well.
Yeah.
And really it is because they're going to need to lean on him. They need to have a solid running game, because they don't have Aaron Jones or Aaron Rodgers now throwing the ball around. And who knows what this Packers offense is going to look like through the air. They know what it's going to look like through the ground. They obviously know that they've got to continue to hang the ball off to him. And I want him to be higher on this list, because I do believe that Aaron Jones is a much more talented back. But you're right. He is splitting with Dillon, and that does cut into it. This is what we talked about. The split of these running backs now, the split of their work, is taking away from guys like Aaron Jones in his top line, his ceiling, as it were. So, again, I think that he's there. I think he's in the top 10. I want him to be higher, but I can't really put him there because he's part of that running back by committee.
Yeah, agreed. And at number 10, I almost felt forced into this one. Well, first I'll say honorable mention to Breece Hall. I really wanted to work him into the top 10, but I think we need to see more of him at the NFL level before we can do that. Only played 7 games, but he did average 5.8 yards per carry. So at number 10, I got Tony Pollard, who just kind of took over and stepped right in where Zeke was and played way better, looked way more explosive, 5.3 yards per carry. Now will be the true test. Can he be that RB1 even though, I mean, the argument can be made that he was their RB1 last year. But obviously the Cowboys felt good enough to let Zeke go and hand the keys over fully to Tony Pollard. And I think he will show that that was the right move, because I think he's an explosive guy that is going to do well for them.
I can imagine a world where Pollard becomes the Zeke of the Cowboys, and we've seen it before from him, and they almost could probably be saying Zeke who, because last season and probably toward the end of the season before too, it just felt like they were forcing things to Elliott because they needed to. Right? It was like, he's here, he's still here. We got to give him something. We got to keep him involved, and he would like run into the line. And this is where we talk about, right? If you can keep going through that line, it's you. If you stop, it's because you're just getting work.
Yeah,
that's what Zeke was this last season.
Agreed.
Like,
yeah, and sorry, I was just say Zeke had 876 yards, and Pollard still managed to go over 1,000 yards. So I know they ran the ball a lot, but I still think that shows that Pollard can be the guy.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree with you, except I don't have him at 10. He's actually 11 for me. At 10 is Miles Sanders. I mean, Carolina Panthers, right? They've been a team that has had Christian McCaffrey for the last several years. Christian McCaffrey was the best running back in football for a very long time. Okay, maybe not very long, but I don't, for me, 2 hours feels like an eternity. So, but again, they can support that. They can support a running back like that. Miles Sanders, summarily dismissed from the Eagles. A lot of people scratching their heads, right, of how that could happen. So now he ends up on I think of a comparable squad as far as his talent can be concerned, because now he doesn't have to deal with a running quarterback like he did in Philadelphia. Now he's in there in Carolina and can probably just get a lot more work, in my opinion, because I think they need to run the ball a lot more in Carolina if they would like to stay in games, because defensively they can't really stop anybody. So again, I just feel like he's in a good fit right now. Not really in that top 5 from where he's at, but I definitely feel like he's going to have an opportunity to contribute. He too has a young quarterback with him now in Bryce Young. So maybe we'll see how that happens. Does Andy Dalton take the first start? That's really what I'm basing it off of. Does Andy Dalton take the first start? And they kind of get Young in there. I know he's probably not going to, but we've seen crazier things happen in the NFL, right? Where number 1 picks don't start right away. But still, I think he's in a good situation. 10 is a good spot for Miles Sanders.
Yeah, no, I like that. I was going to back your pickup with saying I think he was undervalued, the impact he had on the Eagles, but obviously I undervalued him as well since I don't have him in my top 10. But thinking about it, I mean, I think people thought, well, he just did really well because that offense was so good. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. I think that offense it helped them be that good because he's that good. And whether it's Dalton or Young getting the start, I think the Panthers are going to have to rely on the run, and that's Miles Sanders. That starts and ends with him. And he's not, I know Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, I know they didn't get a ton of carries, but they still took carries and touchdowns away from Miles Sanders. I don't think he'll have that much competition in Carolina.
And it is crazy too, because Miles Sanders was one of those names that everybody wanted on their fantasy roster, and yet, no, I don't think, like you said, he was undervalued on even his own team. So yeah, it'd be great to see what he gets stepping out in from a team as star-studded as Philly and into the Carolina Panthers. So
for sure.
All right. Thank you guys out there for listening and watching on YouTube. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in to the live shows, retuning in back for the show when it replays later. But we've had fun growing this YouTube channel. We have fun chatting with you during the live shows, and just continue to do that. Continue to support us. Comments and likes and subscriptions, they make the Google algorithm happy, right? And they continue to put this at the forefront of feeds and searches, which is exactly where you want this, because it'll continue to keep this show free. It'll continue to keep this show at the high level of Justin's standards than everybody else. So please continue to do all the things to keep this YouTube channel going. We absolutely love you, and we want to continue to do this for you for years to come. We don't want to age out like running backs. That's so. All right. Well, Justin, there are future odds out there. There are rushing odds for these guys, and we'll talk through some of them as we always do to give you the right betting angles on these futures. Maybe you guys can use your edge boost for some of these futures bets and load up and double down. We'll give you our favorite double down one in a little bit as well. So, all right, Justin, the first one on this list that I'm looking at right now is Christian McCaffrey. His regular season rushing yards, and I'm sorry if you trip over yourselves trying to get to the counter for this one, 900.5 rushing yards, over, under.
What?
Both are juiced at -110. Please tell me I know which one you're taking on this one.
Definitely the under. No, I'm just kidding. Look, I know that Elijah Mitchell is going to get his carries too. I doubt Christian McCaffrey ever has that 20 carry game again, but it doesn't matter. He's Christian McCaffrey. He's still going to get his. He's still going to get yards. Wow, that's surprisingly low. So I would definitely take the over on that.
It's amazing to me how I don't know what the books were even doing at that point, just sort of sleeping through it. He had 1,100 yards between two teams last year. I mean, 393 with the Panthers, 746 with the Niners. When healthy, like, the dude does not get below 1,000 yards. I mean, it's just when he's healthy. Now, granted, if he gets hurt, this gets voided and it doesn't matter. And then you don't care whether he gets 900.5 yards. But by the same token, it's like, that's what it's going to have to take, I think, for him to not get a 901 yards on the season. It's just insane to me to think and Niners running backs, that's what they do. They run.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Confident enough in this one. I did not realize it was that low. I'm placing a bet on it right now as we speak. Yeah, because I don't want it to go up after the show or anything. We might be trendsetters here, so I had to place it now. Yeah,
in real time. In fact, I'm already going to do that. That's my edge double down play right there. 900.
There you go.
900.5. Double down on Christian McCaffrey's over 900.5 rushing yards. I don't get it, Justin. I'm glad for you guys out there that grabbed this line as well, but I don't get it.
Yeah. Like I said, unless they just think Elijah Mitchell is going to take that much from him, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, me either. All right, let's move on to Miles Sanders. This one's, we just talked him up, but this one's a little tough. His season total set at 925.5, both over under juiced at -110. So whatever side of the fence you're on. I mean, look, we talked about it too. Last season, he was over 1,000 yards with the Eagles. He's with the Panthers. Can he get to 926 this year?
I think so. I think he's going to be in a 1,000-yard rusher. So I like the over on that one.
Well, we talked about half of the teams in the league had at least 1,000-yard rusher, right? So,
right.
And he was one of them. So it stands to reason that he probably will be again. And when you look at who took over for Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, it wasn't necessarily a huge jump from Donta Foreman, who was at 940. No, Donta Foreman was with the Texans. What am I thinking?
No, you're right.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah, last year was the Panthers. 2 years ago it was the Texans.
Sorry, guys. I'm in NASCAR mode still. NASCAR F1. But Donta Foreman was with the Panthers last year, 914 yards. So he damn near got himself to 1,000 yards. And that was with Christian McCaffrey there for a hot second. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think he's got an opportunity to get to 926. Miles Sanders, a little more talented, I think, in my opinion, than Donta Foreman. So I think he can get to 926. I think hammer the over on this one as well.
I don't know. I don't want to bash Foreman too much now because he's a Bear. So
he is now. You're absolutely correct. So now, yeah, Donta Foreman's not even there anymore for that. So
yeah,
you get that reprieve.
Who's gonna beat Sanders out? Chuba Hubbard? I don't think so.
No, he could. If he couldn't supplant Christian McCaffrey, he's not going to supplant Miles Sanders.
Right.
It's not a thing. All right. So Miles Sanders over 925.5 at -110. That is a bet. Jonathan Taylor's total. Okay. Now I said that Miles Sanders was tough. This one's a tough number for me. 1150.5 for Jonathan Taylor. This one's both sides at -110 as well. You notice a pattern there, but 1150.5 for Jonathan Taylor. You had confidence in him. Do you have that much confidence in him?
I mean, I think he'll return to his form, and rookie year, he had 1169. The year after that, 1811. It was just last year he had 861. So if you're like me and believe he's going to return to his form, then you got to take it, I think.
A 1,200-yard season.
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah,
is tough, though. That's a tough one.
that's a tough one because that's high. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not 900. If that was 900, yeah, you smashed the over on that one. But
Right, yeah.
1150 in 17 games. That's the other thing too. It's like the extra game. It kind of does send a lot of people over that 1,200 range when they get there. So I don't know. Give me. All right, fine. You talked me into the over. I think he needs to get there. I think they absolutely need to lean on him to be the star in that offense. This one's another easy over for me, and this one's crazy. This is Josh Jacobs at 1,100.5. So 1,100.5 yards. The over, Justin, is at +100. The under is at -120. So books don't think he's going to get 1,101 yards next year.
Now it almost feels like a trap, does it not? But but I'm taking it anyways. Take the over.
Because Josh Jacobs 1653, like he could trip and fall, like and still probably get to 1,100 yards this season. We talked about the running backs that Aaron Jones 1121, Travis Etienne 1125, Justin Fields even 1143 at quarterback, Dalvin Cook 1173. Like all those guys got to 1,100 yards, and you're telling me that a guy that got to 1,600 yards last year can't make it back to 1,100 yards this year?
Good point.
At even money? No, I'm definitely taking the over on that one. Your boy Austin Eckler, his over under set at 810.5. Both sides of these juiced at -110. We know he's a receiving threat. Can he get to 811 yards?
I think so. He got 915 last year, and I think they've added more receiving options, so I think they're going to run him more, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think he can hit the over on there. I hate to keep picking the over on everybody, but I think that's another one that the over feels like a good number.
But I feel like these lines are set too low anyways. I feel like a lot of these things are 815 or 810 for Austin Eckler. It just feels low. I mean, that's like you said, it's 100 yards lower than he had last year. So I don't know what they were doing to base it off of, what formulas they were doing it, but it just seems to me that these numbers are set lower than they should be. So this is why you pounce on the over, I suppose.
That's an average of for in a 17 game season, that's an average of 47.6 yards per game. He feels like he's going to average over 50 a game, doesn't he?
I did at least that's the thing. And Austin Eckler is riding. He's one of the public faces of that team, of the position, of fantasy football in general too. So, a lot of guys like to roster him, and so they want him to do well every week, and he does by and large. So,
and anybody not watching on YouTube, I didn't Rain Man that. I pulled the calculator up on my phone and figured that out. Just so you know, don't go away impressed. Like, man, he did that quick.
I what you saw was the meme where Justin had all those triangles and stuff sitting around him, and he was figuring it all out. I watched it happen in real time, and I was like, God, go Justin. All right, let's move on to Nick Chubb. 1,225.5 is his total, -110 again for both of these sides of it for Nick Chubb. Rushing 1,200 yards, 1,226 yards is what he's got to get. We talked about him getting 1,525 last season. Feel like this is another low number.
Yeah, I agree. The only reason you play the under here is if you think Deshaun Watson takes either more of the rushing yards away from Chubb or they focus a lot more on the pass, but I don't see it happening. So I like the over. We're just smashing the over on everything.
Life's too short to take the under.
There you go.
1226 for Nick Chubb. Yeah, it's doable. It's there's a path there for sure. Doesn't matter who's under center. Could be Baker Mayfield. It could be Luis Perez. It doesn't matter. Sorry, XFL champion Luis Perez. I didn't mean to put some spect on that name, don't I? All right, let's move on to Travis Etienne. We talked about him earlier. His over under set at 950.5. They don't even think he's going to reach 1,000 yards this season. -110. The disrespect, Justin, for Travis Etienne.
Yeah, these are crazy. I mean, 11.25 last year. Why do we think he's going to take a step back? There's nothing showing that he would take a step back.
No. And again, we talked about how this offense has already improved and charged forward. So I think Etienne's going to be 1,000-yard rusher again this season, which means he easily clears 951 yards. I don't get it.
They drafted a running back, right? Tank Bigsby. I think that's more of an insurance policy, not a guy that they're going to have split in 50-50 carries.
Now, when you let a guy like James Robinson go, who was a 1,000-yard rusher in his own right, you have faith that Travis Etienne is going to continue. And maybe injuries play a part in this, obviously, because obviously he came into the league and injured himself.
Yeah.
So you kind of factored that into it. But I don't know. I don't know how you can disrespect him at 950 yards in a 17-game season on the surging Jacksonville Jaguars. So give me Travis Etienne to get 951 yards this season. Derrick Henry, 1150.5 is his number. Both of these, again, set at -110. So over under for Derrick Henry, health, right? Biggest issue. If he's healthy, he smashes this.
Right. Yeah, I take the over. I never plan on somebody getting hurt. I know they don't plan on that either, obviously. But I mean, the 2021, he only played, I think, 8 games. Yeah, 8 games, and he had 937 yards in 8 games. So that's pretty close to what his over under is now in a full season. So yeah, I'm taking it.
Yeah, it's definitely not that one. That one is surprisingly low. That one should have been closer to like 1250 or maybe 100 yards more than that, or even closer to 13. I don't know. You probably want to set it even higher, but yeah, Derrick Henry over 1150, smash that one too.
Yeah. Take away 2021 where he got injured. 2019, 1540, 2020, he had 2,027, and then last year 1,538. Over 1,500 yards each season there, besides his injured year.
I'm not setting the lines. Don't come at me. Like I said, if you're watching this live, smash it now, because who knows what it's going to be in a month when they realize that this is way too low. Public money needs to flood in on that as well. All right, last but not least, Tony Pollard. We just talked about him as well. Tony Pollard's number set at 1050.5. I think you talked about it just a little bit ago as far as him being at least a 1,000-yard rusher. His over set at plus 100, under set at -120. Can he get to 1051?
Yeah, this is another one I don't quite understand. He had 1,007 last year, and that's with Zeke having 867 yards as well. So I think he can find his other 43 yards in that and hit the over.
Yeah, you give him a few of those Ezekiel Elliott touches, and I think he's way over. I think he's an 1,100-yard rusher at least, maybe even 12 by the time. It's because he's too talented. He's too talented, and he's still young enough with a lot of tread on the tires to get there as well. So, you know what? We did not talk about Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, if he comes back, 1,000.5 is all he needs, is to cross the 1,000-yard mark by 1 yard. -110 on both of these.
I like the over, unless you want to bank on him sitting out, then take the under. I mean, that probably voids the ticket, but some books, they won't void it. They'll count it as a win. So I guess know your book, but yeah, I like the over though. I think he plays.
All overs on this one. Last one, Aaron Jones, 800.5, -110 on both sides of this.
Why are these so low? This is weird, is it not?
Is it too early in the season? Do they not think that people are going to be taking running back futures? I mean,
smash the over. Take Fields under rushing. That's 825. Take the under on that, because I want him to pass more. They don't want him running around and getting hurt.
Well, I don't know, man. 800 feels low for that as well. But yeah, 800 for Aaron Jones. Yeah, take the over on that one. 1121 last season.
Yeah.
Still splitting with Dylan. And now he's going to need to run the ball more, because he's going to have Jordan Love at quarterback, and they're going to need to hand the ball off to him more. So
Agreed.
I think he breaks 1,000 yards again. So weird. We're taking all overs. It's the over show is what this is.
There you go.
So, all right. Well, listen, That was fun. I love the running back position. I love it. There's so many good ones out there right now still.
And your double down was CMC over?
My double down was CMC over. There's just no way. I mean, now granted, I could probably just tell you my edge double down is all of them on the over,
Right.
because it just feels like there's a lot to smash. But yeah, definitely the CMC over for sure.
I'm going to go a little crazy with mine. My edge double down, most regular season rushing yards, Derrick Henry plus 850.
Wow. Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, I don't know. Josh Jacobs is going to get the most this year with Derrick Henry the way he is. So
yeah,
and really that's it. It's a kind of a couple horse race between Henry and them if Henry stays healthy. I almost feel like there's another 1,800 yard season in Derrick Henry before he kind of crests that hill.
Agreed.
All right. Well, I feel like we've done it. We've power ranked. We've given you some good futures to look at. So run to your book right now. Just hammer all the overs because books are sleeping at this point.
That's right.
All right, Justin, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on social media as we kind of clamp this show down for good, or for today, not for good.
For today. Find me on Twitter at JMark Football. Post everything there.
That's right. Follow him there. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on, whether it's here, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, the F1 Gambling Podcast, Canadian Grand Prix happening this week. NASCAR's got a week off, but we're still cranking out some shows for you as well. And of course, in between media, where I'm on the back road and all kinds of good stuff. So check it out. Link in the bio. Find me on there. So until then, everybody, have some fun. Go smash those overs and let it ride.